Tax Rep Network is brought to you by Bench, America's largest bookkeeping service for small businesses. Bench is committed to supporting business owners that have fallen seriously behind on their books, something that is all too common in representation work. They combine powerful technology and an in-house expert bookkeeping team to deliver accurate financials for every year of missing returns. Bench specializes in tough cases, solving even the most complex, difficult, and time-consuming client challenges. Working with Bench means more time for you to focus on actively working rep cases, problem solving, and growing your practice. What's more, they're fast, meaning you'll be keeping clients and revenue officers happy. It's a win-win. One of the greatest things I found is that if it's a really big, messy case, they can throw more and more people at it versus anyone I could find locally. Once Bench helps your clients fully catch up, their monthly bookkeeping service keeps them out of trouble, ensuring you can provide a truly lasting resolution. Bench's partner program is perfect for tax pros that need a dependable resource they can trust to get their clients caught up. With meaningful partner benefits and dedicated support, Bench already works with many tax rep members. Find out more at www.bench.co/taxrep. That's www.bench.co/taxrep. So how do I call the IRS and get through much faster? How do I avoid those courtesy hangups that the IRS does? I use Call ENQ. ENQ is a service that you can use to get through to the IRS much faster, get to a representative, and basically get your case resolved. We set up a special arrangement for Tax Rep Network listeners where you can try the service, get 200 minutes for $19.95. For less than $20, you get 200 minutes and you will save hours and hours and hours of time and frustration. Just go to callenq.com/TRN. Again, callenq.com/TRN as in Tax Rep Network. Try the service. It will literally change your practice. How do I manage my tax rep practice? How do I get transcripts? How do I track what is going on with the IRS with every single one of my client cases? How do we complete the offer forms, the powers of attorney, everything? We use Tax Help software. Tax Help software is the cornerstone of our practice. We use it for its intelligent ordering. Every single night, it will update the transcripts on our clients, so we will see things happen long before those letters even go to the mail. We can then, react. We can let the client know. We can get all the transcripts we need to determine what our client's best options are, when is the debt going to expire, and we can fill in all of the IRS forms and get them filed accurately, the analysis done correctly. If you're interested in giving it a test, go to taxhelpsoftware.com, use promo code TAXREPTRIAL, all one word, all caps. You will get a free 2-week trial. Again, that's taxhelpsoftware.com, TAXREPTRIAL, all caps for a free 2-week trial. If you love it and want to buy it, use TAXREP10, capital, all caps, TAXREP10, TAXREP10, all caps, one word. You'll save 10% on your purchase. It will be the engine that runs your tax rep practice, just like it's what we use for ours.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this week's Tax Rep Network podcast. I'm Eric Green. I am thrilled to introduce my guest. Joining me is Sharrin Fuller. If you don't know Sharrin, she speaks all over the place. Googling her, you're not hard to find. So if you're not familiar, though, Sharrin is the CEO and founder of Glass Wallet Ventures. She's a managing partner in multiple accounting and financial service businesses. And the reason I was so happy to have Sharrin here is one of her specialties is talking about how to scale and make your practice saleable, which is a topic I've kind of touched on, but I'm not an expert like she is. All right. But after successfully starting, scaling, and selling her accounting and bookkeeping practice, Sharrin developed the remote firm scaling system and remote team roadmap to help accounting firms position themselves for growth and eventual acquisition with maximum productivity from their teams. She's also created a virtual accounting firm, which is awesome, as a way of avoiding all the costly overhead that usually goes along with most firms. You were way ahead of the COVID curve. She's speaking out at Accounting Web, the Accounting Web Summit in San Diego on May 10th. I was very excited until I found out, like, seriously, we're in competing time slots, which is why I was like, well, then I have to invite Sharrin onto the podcast because it's going to be a great talk. If you're going to be at the Accounting Web Summit, obviously my talk is great, but if you're not going to sit in my talk, you may want to grab Sharrin's. But Sharrin, first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
All joking aside, there are usually two reasons why I decide to bring on a guest. One is that they're doing something really important in the accounting tax space, or they're an expert in something that I've touched on, and I really think that we could go deeper with it. And you check both boxes. I think what you're doing with virtual practices is very cool. Your focus on helping accountants make their practice saleable is a topic, and we were talking about this a little bit before we got started. So many people wait to the end, and they get to the point where it's now October. I can't do another tax season, and now they're trying to sell under the gun. Their practice is usually all wrapped up around them, which is a problem. By the way, it's why law firms aren't saleable.
Yeah,
right? Because all personal goodwill, if Eric Green drops dead, is the phone number worth something? Well, probably. Is the furniture worth something? Yeah, probably. But the goodwill is going to evaporate along with me. And so it's a topic that most people don't think about until it's really kind of too late. And for everyone listening, I think that this is something that they want to be thinking about. But before we go diving into that, why don't you tell us about Sharrin? All right. I mean, and sometimes I say, oh, well, let's go back to high school. We don't have to go back that far, but I mean, did you always know you?
That's a long time ago.
I'd never know. But anyway, me, I'm completely gray. So of course I have 4 kids. Part of this is I tell them it's because of them.
That'll do it.
Yeah. But did you always know you wanted to get into accounting, or how did you find your way into accounting?
I did not want to be in accounting. I actually wanted to be a lawyer or a psychologist, which are honestly on the completely opposite realms of the career path. And then I realized how much college I'd have to go through. And when I was in high school, I started taking college classes, and as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, this is like paid for high school. This is terrible. There is no way I'm going to pay for this and sit here for 8 years. So that just, out of my mind. So I started managing companies. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And then I got my nail license. I've always been kind of a Jill of all trades. I like to keep busy. After I got my nail license, I bought a salon. And when I bought that salon, I had to start learning about accounting, handling my own QuickBooks, understanding what payroll taxes were, liability, what's workers' comp. And as I'm doing that, I'm realizing I really enjoy this. So I sold that salon, moved to California, and started working for a company where I was operations manager again. And that company sold. And I thought, okay, I'm so sick of working for other people. Everybody keeps selling their businesses or whatnot. Anyhow, so at that point, I found a niche of which there were all these companies that rented space inside our cold storage facility, office space, and all of them that said, I wish I could hire you, but I only need you 3 or 4 hours a week. And I'm like, well, there's 10 of you. That's a full-time job. So I initially started my company, A Simple Office Solution, as your mobile office manager. And that's really what I did. I went to offices typically to pick up everything I needed to get. And then I'd go home, I'd handle all the bookkeeping, anything that needed to be done. And over time, that kind of translated into or turned into working with tax accountants and things like that. And we eventually evolved into a full service fractional CFO and controller advisory firm. So that started in 2006. And that's where I found my love of accounting and working from home. Honestly, the remote thing is completely selfish. I just don't enjoy putting on pants if I don't have to. I don't want to do it. I just want to roll out of bed, come down to my desk and get things done, and then roll back out of my office and go sit on the couch during the weekdays. So just after back and forth in the grind in San Diego for so long, remote was just my thing.
So so you have these 10 clients. At what point do you end up scaling up to being like a full, bookkeeping, accounting, or have you always kept it small?
No, it started smaller. And then what I found is I was really, really good at it. Not to toot my own horn, but what I found, I'm not going to charge hourly anymore. I'm going to charge fixed fee, because what takes somebody else 10 hours takes me 2, but the value I'm bringing is still worth the same dollar amount. So I found that I was really, really efficient and I could get everything done. And, I've always been very organized. So I just started scaling as much as I possibly could with just myself. I think around 2010 is when I realized I need help. And I hired on an assistant that just kind of handled some of the low level things. And then I really started scaling up in 2015. For some reason, every client that I'd had over the past 9 years decided that they wanted to refer someone to me, and it just grew. And I got to the point where I thought, okay, I either need to turn all these clients down or I need to grow a team. So I grew a team, and that was actually very scary because now I'm in charge of all these people's livelihoods, not just my own. I can't just say, no, I'm not going to do that because, you have bills to pay. Anyhow, so that was a point that we really scaled. And then after about 5-6 years, I think, what was it? Yeah, about 5. I was just, I got the offer. Actually, that in 2020, I got several offers of people trying to acquire my business. And I didn't really want to sell it. Eventually, it just came to a point that I got an offer that I thought would just be perfect. And it all worked out.
Well, and there's a lot to unpack there. But what is fascinating? No, really. I mean, what's fascinating is a couple things. One, the ability to leverage today has never been better. Like you hired a team. More and more, I'm less inclined to put people in place. So I've had on the podcast Andrew Lassis. He has the Tech for Accountants podcast. And he and I were just talking, goofing before we got started. And I was talking about how, my workflow. And he said, Eric, just to let you know, we can automate all of that. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, these systems don't work together. I can make them work together. There's something called Zapier. And so what we're now doing internally is we're implementing the automation, not because I want to get rid of people, but it will allow me to punch above my weight. We can now do way more because if we can cut out even 15 minutes a day per person, those hours, that's hundreds of hours by the end of the year, maybe even 1,000 hours when you look at that. And so what we end up doing more is value billing, flat fee billing, because I don't want to do it per hour. I'm investing in this and the client's now getting to pay less. No, that's not the way this works, right? They're going to pay more because our profit margin is going up because I can now get it done cheaper. Now, interestingly, you weren't looking to sell. No. When they came knocking.
It was my baby.
For folks who are, so a couple of things, actually, before we get into the sale part, for folks who are like right now, I think, and I said there's a silver lining to COVID, which is clients that used to insist on coming in have had to learn to use Dropbox or SmartVault or whatever. They've had to learn to use Zoom or FaceTime or whatever. Now is maybe a real opportunity for people, I think, to take their practice and begin moving it more virtual, even if it's not. For instance, when our lease is up, do we need the amount of space we need? Do I need space at all? There are these places like Regis and Stark, and office shares. If I have to have a meeting, it's like $150 a month. Yeah, I'll pay per meeting, but I'm charging the client $500, $600, $700. So what do I care? From your perspective, are you seeing more of that? Because I know you're consulting now for a lot of folks. Are you seeing people embrace this, or people kind of? I'm wondering how many people are really dead set, or not dead set, but are set to get back to the way they used to be.
You would be amazed. It really kind of baffles me when I look at companies like the larger ones. Who is it, like Google or Facebook? They're like, we're going to come back to half in office. I'm thinking, how terrible. Can I just be in office on Tuesday and Wednesday, or Wednesday and Thursday then? Don't make me come in Monday or Friday. But I feel like when it comes to especially smaller business owners, they're one of two ways. For the ones that can be remote, right? Not everything can, but the ones that can, service-based, where it can be. They either are completely against it, won't do it, and they're going to stay in the dark ages, and that's just where they're going to live, and their clientele is going to be that dark age clientele, because those are the ones that don't want to adapt. But when that business dies out, that style of business dies out, and that's what it is. And no one's going to want to acquire that business, because their clientele is stuck in that mode, and they don't want to be stuck in that mode. So if you buy that business, you're not going to get them transferred over here to this remote workspace. You're just going to lose all those clients. And then you've got the newer ones that I would like to say are younger and hip. I am neither of those things. Like I said, I'm just lazy and selfish. You've got those of us that are like, no, let's do this. Let's embrace it. Let's say, this is what it is. Here's how we're going to do it. But I think the way for firms to really kind of transition into that is, first of all, they have to want to do it. The owner has to be behind it. And two, you have to have a process laid out. You can't just tell your clients, this is what we're going to do. You have to send them a thing and say, this is how we're going to do it. Here's my calendar link. We're going to book you here. Here's what we're going to use to communicate. They have to see it and know that you've thought it through and how you're actually going to function. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to be sitting there not really thinking it through, and you're going to have all these clients emailing you, and you're not going to know what to do. So it's really something you have to put a little bit of thought into beforehand and find out what works for you, because another big thing that really kills your clients, and I know this is a little off topic, is changing platform over and over, and they have to download something new and learn something new, which a lot of clients don't want to do that. So Consistency is key, along with the efficiency.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you learn, especially when you sell for a living, I sell for a living, even though I'm a tax lawyer, even though I do handle cases, whatever, at the end of the day, I really am a marketing person, because I need to keep the phones ringing, keep people coming in. There is a value proposition that you're making to your clients. And one of the things is, look at Amazon, look at, Google, look, what they do really well is make it easy.
Exactly.
Google, Amazon, you can order, shows up at your door. You want to return, print the label, slap it on. You can even leave it at your door and walk into a dozen different places. They make it easy. All right. And the idea is, it used to be when you sold, you made it hard, right? In other words, you'd send it something that when they tore it open now it was too difficult to go and get something to return it. Well, people don't want to deal with those companies. And today with social media, everything is more transparent. People want to know who you are and why and what you're all about. And, if they don't like that, they're just going to move on to another company that has a similar product and a better why. And so a lot of it now is who you are, and you need to make it easy. I'm not surprised to hear you say younger folks embrace the virtual, which is really right up their alley, almost in a negative way. And I'll tell you the truth, it bothers me that there's a in-person social awkwardness, but everyone's got these avatars or whatever you want to call it online. Suicide rates are going up. At the professional organizations, they don't want to show up because they think their friends are all on this thing. And what they don't realize is, I have found that networking to be um, worth 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 my weight multiple times over in gold. But the point is, I would imagine they would embrace it because they're used to virtual. They're used to doing everything on the computer or on a screen.
Mhm.
And it is going to be interesting that eventually, like everything, like my clients, they're going to get left behind. I mean, like my clients had to learn to use Zoom. We're not meeting. We're just not meeting. Period. End of story. So did you at some point plan to be virtual? Like in other words, when you started, or did it something that you pivoted to?
Immediately. I immediately so virtual wasn't really a thing back in '06. We didn't have a lot of apps. QuickBooks wasn't online. Everything was a desktop. So in the beginning, there wasn't a lot of virtual, but the first thing I thought is, how can I do this from home? And I think I found Log Me In or something like that. And the first thing I do when I would get to a client is install Log Me In. So when I'm at home, I can log in, remote access their computer. So that way, all I had to do is on Mondays or Fridays, whatever day we decided, I'd go drive around all my clients, grab everything, because to get people to scan an email at the time was just horrible. Grab everything, take it home, and do it at home. So that was pretty darn close to virtual that you could get at the time. And then, of course, once I had all those things, I was creating online and stopping paper. Anyhow, getting people to embrace at that point was a little bit harder. It was really building a level of trust of, hey, this crazy person's not coming into my office, stealing my mail, hacking into my computer, and I'm never going to see her again. So, I feel like it's still that way, to be honest. So you really have to build that level of trust. But no, from the beginning, I didn't like being in offices. Nothing was worse, like I said, than that alarm clock waking up at 6 o'clock. So I have to wash my hair and brush my teeth, to drive an hour and a half in traffic, to sit in an office and work for 8 hours, to drive an hour and a half home. That's like 3 hours of my life completely wasted that I could have been productive and had more to my day. And that's really kind of what it all came down to. I did live in San Diego. I didn't want to be in traffic. I wanted to be at the beach and the bar. So the sooner I could start my day, get my work done, and stop my day, the better.
Well, and again, to unpack, the way I've put it to many of my tax rep members, your practice works for you. You don't work for it. And so your practice you set up around the way you wanted to live. Well, so I did a podcast, and it was right before tax season, and I start getting bombarded with the emails. I'm dreading this. Do you have any advice? I said, here's what you do: get your favorite drink on a Sunday, run the list of your clients, how much they're paying you, and who has receivables. All right, rank your clients A to F. The D's and the F, just fire them, get rid of them now, like immediately. Send a letter saying, due to my schedule, I'm unable to continue working on your account. I believe you have all of your documents. If not, we're shipping them to you. You're going to need to go seek a new accountant. Thank you very much. Don't let the door hit you in the ass. Bye. All right. The C clients, if they owe you money, not only, first of all, if they owe you money, collect what you can collect and fire them. But otherwise, they're going up significantly. B's are going to go up something. A's can go up a little, but they go up every single year. What will happen, if you're lucky, is a third will leave. Good. Now you're going to make the same money or more money for less work. Because you train your clients. And if you're listening to this, you have trained your clients to treat you the way they treat you. If they're cheap and they pay slow, you have allowed them to do that. Right? So one is, we have to break them or get rid of those people. And now, if you can get your practice to a point where you're charging what you want, you're working with people you like, and you're being paid properly, and also, by the way, doing less work. Who says you have to work till midnight during tax season? Why can't you be home for dinner? Why do you have to work 7 days a week? You have chosen this. It's like a disease that still is hanging around from the 80s. Now, 80s are before your time, but it's not it's not mine. All right, I'm not going there. But the point being is that, and I'll tell you, big law and the big accounting firms, and I say it's like a disease. Ally McBeal, the old TV show, actually, I think showed this really well. It's like a culture. going to stay till midnight. We're going to
Yeah.
eat dinner. I'll be out at
Yeah.
midnight at the bar. It becomes like this weirdo culture where you're just expected to.
Yep.
No, I'm kind of with you. It's not because first of all, I am super disciplined, but I'm also really lazy. I have set myself up because I don't want to work evenings.
Yep. 100%.
Right?
Or weekends.
Yeah, my kids for some weird reason like to hang out with me. Right? My wife for some weird reason likes to hang out with me. And so this idea that their practices are out of control. So I did this podcast where you got to get your arms around this. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You start with getting rid of everything bad. Just fire them, get rid of them. And now you start building the practice that you want. Now, for those folks who have not thought this through, who are like, Eric, I've got this space and I've got 5 people and I've got, I want to talk to you about some of the advice to, one, make the practice more saleable,
Yes.
but also this transition, because most people, I know you called yourself lazy, but it was also a little bit of, it wasn't really lazy. It was, what do I want it's fascinating.
Yeah.
If you go back and listen to one of the earlier podcasts, this is a true story. I called Brent Robertson. Brent is with Fathom. There's a software company, Fathom. This is Fathom. They're consultants here in West Hartford. They do big companies, CBS. I mean, they do a lot of that. I'm friends with him. He's one of the founders. So I called him one Saturday. We were talking about something, and I said, "Can I just ask you something? The law practice is growing. My marriage is good. My kids are great. The coaching program keeps growing. So why am I so fucking miserable?" And he said, "You know what?" He said, let's unpack that for a moment. He said, "What do you want?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" He said, No. Tell me what you want. Describe what you want your day to look like. Describe what you want your week to look like. And he said, easy question to ask, hard to answer. He said, think that through. And he said, then you're going to engineer backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was brilliant. And I all of a sudden began to realize all these things that I was doing or setting myself up for that I could change and cut. For folks that are listening, because often they're already, in it. I think you said lazy. I think it was more of you had a vision for how you wanted to run your life, and you built yourself around it. So I don't think it's lazy. I think it's brilliant, or at least understanding what you want, which a lot of people don't. Again, go back to that go back to the culture from the 80s that we all came out with. That's what you do. You work like a dog. Everyone hates tax season. Why? It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
For the folks who are already in that, what do you do for people like that are already like, my life is chaos 8 months out of the year? And it doesn't slow down like it used to. Remember summers, accountants went golfing during the summer?
Yeah.
No more.
Yeah.
It's now year round. How do you help people break themselves of that?
With a golf club, and just kidding. That's a terrible joke. Honestly, the first thing I ask them is, how are you managing? How are you managing yourself? When you get up in the morning, what are you doing? And honestly, to me, that's where it starts. What's your project management tool? How are you doing? How are you answering calls? Some of these people are answering texts all night long, responding to email all night long. They're never getting that break. So when they get in the morning, they're already so exhausted because they had no time off in between to rebuild and decompress to start over again. So usually I find out, and 9 times out of 10, those people will be like, I don't know, I have a pad and paper, or I don't know, I just look at my email. I'm like, there's your number one problem. You're not organized. You're not managing. Manage your time. Give yourself a set time. I am going to work from 9 to 5. That is my time. Here is my day. Here are my priorities. This is what I need to get done today. These are my hard deadlines. Move the next things over till eventually it all just kind of trickles down. And then you have to be disciplined. Some people aren't. In the remote life, a lot of people aren't, but some people just can't. Some people thrive or enjoy that chaos, and you got to identify that right away. And you're like, well, that's just where you're going to be. Maybe you should go work in a daycare because that's chaotic too, but at least it's 9 to 5. Anyhow, honestly, I think it really comes down to management. How are you managing your days? And if you can get them to convert and to use some sort of tool and to set guidelines for themselves, like you mentioned, and stick to them, then they start getting in better habits. I mean, you got to figure that those type of habits have been going on since they first started. So decades, and it's really hard to break someone overnight. So one little piece at a time. And then of course, they're always worried their customers are going to go away. And I'm like you said, the ones that are driving you nuts and won't respond to you are not worth it. Or that respond all the time. At the time you're texting them, you're on the phone with them, you're dealing with them, I guarantee you're losing money regardless of what they're paying you. You're losing money. Tell them this is how it's going to be. They can get on board or they can go somewhere else. And then you've just freed up so much more time, like you mentioned, to handle the rest of your clients. Maybe you have some really great clients that want more from you, but you haven't had the capacity to do it. Right. Anyhow. So that is me, taking your question and just running circles with it.
No, I mean, and 20% of your clients take up 80% of your time.
Yes, they do. 100%.
Oh yeah, no, like I told a joke. I think it was at AICPA at the Engage conference 2 years ago.
That's a good one.
Yeah, somebody had mentioned to me, what do you do with the clients that don't respond, whatever? And I said, we will send each week. We send an email. Where's the stuff? Where's the stuff? Third week, it comes from me. Clearly, you're not ready to move forward. If we don't hear from you by Monday, we're closing your file, and I'm going to return the balance of your retainer. And the comment came up, well, don't you worry about them leaving. I said, what's interesting is I got a lot happier and my practice runs a lot smoother once I realized I didn't give a shit.
Well, and those clients, the amount of time you spent trying to track them down and beg them to get their information to you, you've already spent the allotted time that you were supposed to work on them. So you are in a loss.
And for people who are interested, the best that comes to mind, the best discussion about this, I don't know if you know, he wrote a number of best-selling books. Jocko Willink, he has a podcast, former Navy SEAL. He was interviewed by Success Magazine. You can find it on YouTube. And they said, look, we know that you're super disciplined and scheduled, everything. And he said, that's not really true. He said, I schedule part of my day. He said, so like, for instance, and here's what I've taken from it. First of all, you cannot call me directly. I'm on Do Not Disturb. Everything goes to my assistant. That's one of the things Brent Robertson had me do. He said, you need to build a wall between you and everyone else. And I'm sure you've experienced this. Everyone listening has, where you are crazy all day and nothing got done because you're just reacting. When Jocko was interviewed, what he said was, parts of my day are very scheduled, which gives me freedom in other parts. So like in the morning, I will schedule hardcore from 7:30 to 2. I am scheduled. I do not just randomly pick up calls. So now at 2 o'clock, you know what? I'm kind of tired. The afternoon slump. I've gotten work done. So from 2 o'clock on, I can return phone calls. People can come in and just sit and shoot, the breeze with me about a case or whatever's going on. And when I leave at 5:30, 6 o'clock, no matter the chaos of the afternoon, I got stuff done. I knocked off what I wanted to knock off. His advice was, don't try scheduling 8 hours. You're never going to stick to that. He said, even like at Navy SEAL operation, he said, people get lost, boats break, cars. I mean, you just have to build in extra time. He said, you don't schedule 8 or 10 hours. He said, you'll never stick to that. Schedule part of your day, and it gives you the freedom in the other part to react and deal with whatever fires came up. And that's kind of been really helpful for me. But it is a hard thing to break because my life for many years was just chaos. Come in the morning, listen to voicemails, immediately return those voicemails. Why, I don't know. Respond to emails. Now it's noon, nothing's gotten done. People want to come in and talk to me. And at 5:30, nothing got done. So at night and weekends, I'm doing work. And my wife would say, can't you get your work done like during the week? And I'm like, well, no, you don't understand. And no, she was right.
It is true. I've been in those. I've worked for a company like that. And it was just, it was terrible, right? You got in, and my boss, his way of thinking, he came from a Big Four, was you get here before your boss gets here and you don't leave until after your boss leaves. And that was the mentality we had. And we were working, and then the same thing, like we had to get things right then. Helping each, anyhow, it was just crazy. And I think at the end of the week, I was working 70, 80 hours. And I think I had Sunday evenings maybe to myself if I was lucky. No, I took Sunday mornings for mimosa brunch so I can handle Sunday evening.
Right.
But that's not a life. It's not a life.
And by the way, you probably weren't being very efficient.
No, how can you be efficient in that?
No. The
just
chaos.
dropping balls left and right, and then clients are mad at you, and then your boss is mad at you, but you're still working 80 hours a week. So where's the downfall?
And you're not doing your best work because you're reacting. Everything is reacting. In many ways. Well, clients come to me for strategy, right? I mean, I teach offers and all this stuff, and there's what I like about my work is there's real strategy to it. I can't give you my attention and focus if I'm constantly in a state of reaction. All right. I need to come in the morning, fresh coffee, look at it. And sometimes I'll say, what about this or what about, and things that'll come to me that didn't come to me a week before when they first called, because I can sit quietly and think this through. And again, do not disturb. My phone does not ring. And my staff have learned, I don't care who it is. The commissioner can call. I'll call him back. It's not that important. All right. You get work done. So for people that are in this chaos, Sharrin, I think it kind of goes in two places. One, of course, is can you pivot to slowly make yourself more virtual? We touched on it. I think the answer is yes, kind of how you do that. But do you think the virtual practice is more saleable?
Absolutely. 100%.
I mean, to me, it's a stupid question, but
because it can be anywhere, right? You don't have to be in, Timbuktu and live there to go to this brick and mortar or fly in to manage it. It can be wherever, and your team can be wherever, and your clients can be wherever. So you also have a bigger, more scalable product at that point as well. You're not stuck to this very small, limited demographic.
Right. The other thing I wanted to mention to people listening to this is if you can embrace technology, whether it's automated bookkeeping, having the systems talk to each other. Here's what I found. As I have done more of this, I actually get to spend more time with my clients. My clients, in many ways, get more access to me because I'm not running around in all the details. We've managed, we can streamline a lot of it. My staff do a lot of the back stuff. And now I'm more freed up. All of a sudden, I have more time. And by the way, I'm in a better mood.
Yes.
All right.
It's great for everybody.
Oh yeah, no. And it really is. It makes a big difference. So first of all, if you're listening, you want to try to automate everything. If you're sitting there going, okay, I don't even know where to begin. There are people that, first of all, Sharrin can help you, right? Because at least look at it and say, you know what, you can automate that. There's software for that. I mean, Dawn Brolin, when she dragged me into, I think it was Scaling New Heights to the exhibit hall, I was like, oh my God, look, like I couldn't get over it because again, I'm a lawyer and this is accounting, but not just one, many competitors in inventory, bookkeeping. I mean, I never heard Xero. What the hell is Xero? There's a real company called Xero. All of this stuff. So one is there's probably a software solution. You are not the only one who's thought of this. So you don't have to start programming. There's probably something out there that can be done. And then there are people that can help you implement it. Sharrin, if you really need someone to help you automate things, Andrew Lassie, I mean, there are other people. One, it would obviously automate everything. How do you start transitioning clients? Like you were running around picking things up. Did you find you had to transition those people to Zoom, or when this stuff kind of came along, did you find it was a natural?
It was a natural transition. It was actually really nice because I can't even remember what we had back in the day. Something like some phone line a virtual phone line that would have one-on-one calls, and it was a big pain in the butt. Ring Central, I think. Anyhow, and it was really hard for people to get in. And then Zoom came along, and that was just great. And fortunately for us, the type of clients that we specialize in and we work with tend to be in the tech startup, the SaaS industry. So they're very, they're technology friendly and they love it. In fact, a lot of times like, hey, try this. My buddy just made this app. And we're like, great. So that transition is always easy. It's just those few that are a little bit older that have a harder time. But that's where we've created what we do is we create a instructional video or a step-by-step with, screenshots. So that way for our clients that are like, I don't know how to do this, we're like, here, you can watch me do it, everything you need to do, and you can do it step by step. And that seems to honestly work the absolute best because they can replay it over and over. Either if it doesn't work on it, what we've also done is just logged in to or done a screen share and walked them through it ourselves. And we have someone on the team that can always do that. So yeah.
Well, it's one of the opportunities created, I think, because of COVID. Mm-hmm. I went from every client wanting to come in and see me. Mm-hmm. And I kind of get it. My clients are under severe stress, criminal investigations, audits, they owe money, they've been levied, liened, whatever. They'll say, can you send me a Zoom link? Like they don't even ask to come in anymore. So in many ways, if you're listening to this, there's
$8 a gallon. Who wants to go anywhere?
and by the way, it's still too cheap. It should be $16 a gallon, like Europe. If you want to help the environment, whatever. The point is, there's an opportunity now to say, hey, COVID is still around. We have people, make it up. We have people that are compromised. We're doing everything virtual. We will send you a link. You'll have a handful, generally older people who have difficulty. If they want to drop stuff and you have a human being scan it for now, fine. But eventually.
But there's services for that, right?
They can go to Kinko's or Staples.
There's actually like you can set something up as an accounting firm and your client can mail it in and that place will put everything in a scanned PDF and send over to you. So there's almost every issue that you can think of why people want to meet in person is 100% solvable with technology.
Well, and listen, now that because of COVID, now the IRS embraces it too. So with my laptop and my phone, which will work as a scanner, not the photo, I mean, a real scan app. Uh-huh. I can scan documents, upload them to the IRS. I have eFax. I can receive eFax. Literally with laptop, I can go anywhere. I've been in Florida. I've been in Chicago. I've been in Israel, and I can run my practice, have meetings, call the IRS like I'm sitting at home in my office.
Yep. And no one needs to know.
No, but usually it's interesting. They'll say, "Where are you today?" I'm in Tel Aviv. Really? I've never been. And I'm having this conversation with an IRS person in Philadelphia. It used to be years ago, the internet, it's now everywhere. I mean, or maybe your hotel's not great. You got to move somewhere. But the point being is that you can really do this from anywhere. And if you do have a practice, you can start transitioning to a more virtual, and it might take you a little time, but you eventually could get to the point where your people can work from home. You don't need that overhead, the office space, all of that stuff. And you can be a little freer about where you choose to do what you do.
Well, and one thing I always tell people on top of that is you can also decide where you want your team to come from, right? You don't have to, and no offense to people living in San Francisco or New York, but your cost of living there is extremely high. Wages are high. So if you have a business there, you can hire amazing people elsewhere, still pay them way over whatever their cost of living would be there. So it's amazing. Afford to grow, run your firm. It's something for a startup that really thinks about it. Like I really need someone, but I can't afford 180,000 person. Well, if I get someone from say Missouri, they're top of the line, in median income, I could offer 90 and they are rich as can be. And now I'm getting an amazing person. They're growing with my firm. I know maybe I want to get them to this amount, which is what the goal is, but now you're able to grow your firm in that way. And I think that's honestly the employee pool is to me, one of the biggest benefits of having the remote team is that we have so many more options of people out there. And to be quite honest, we find almost all our best employees in Texas and Florida, if that's not odd.
Well,
almost all of our great ones.
Well, I think a lot of people have left New York, the Northeast, moved down there.
They can now, right?
They can. And with remote, you can get talent that you may not have locally. Like
Yes.
We're in New Haven. New Haven, it's a lovely town. We have Yale and everything else, but it's not really a huge talent pool.
Yeah.
But if
exactly.
you are willing to deal with remote, now you open up to the entire country.
Yes. And then some. I mean, I get people from other countries. They're like, I will work your hours. I want to come to the US. I need to work and prove anyhow. So you really do open yourself up, way more than what you had before. So, yeah.
And different time zones, believe it or not, is very helpful. When you can have people covering, like I'm in the East Coast, 5 o'clock here, it's only 2 o'clock there. You could theoretically have coverage, later into the evening if you're in that kind of business. So no, there is a huge advantage. Again, if you're in a business that can,
Yes.
and most of our listeners are accountants, and you can embrace getting people from all over. In fact, what's interesting is I now have tax rep members who've posted. We have a whole online forum. I'm looking for per diem work, and other members are like, I need help. And you're trained. I don't care if you're sitting here. You can be in Illinois. You can be in Florida. You can be wherever, as long as you get the work done.
Yep.
I don't care where you are. No, it really is a huge advantage. So for folks who want to sell their business or more in the future are going to want to sell, and I have kind of a really, I don't want to say hard line, but I have a real sense that, what, I'll ask you, if I want to make my accounting practice saleable,
Mm-hmm.
is that something that I should start thinking about early on?
As soon as you possibly can. So I tell people the first thing you need to do is make sure your company is organized correctly, because when you go through due diligence of selling your company, you're going to want, if you've got a bunch of different companies, everything's intertwined, you've got a mess and it's too much to iron. It's costly to iron out and move apart. And it also could drive away the buyer. So number one, form your company correctly. Have it to where it's this piece. If you're going to have 6 or 7 different branches, that's fine. Create different LLCs, but make sure that this one's in its own little separate LLC. So that way you can sell off that one piece. The second thing I tell them is keep all your finances for that company in that company. Don't use it as your personal piggy bank. Take owner's draws if you need to, whatever. But don't just swipe the card. I try to also tell people to keep anything owner related off the P&L. If you're taking draws, don't put it as your wages. Keep them on the balance sheet, because then when you're putting your draws over on the P&L, you're actually drawing it down. When you go to do due diligence, they're going to ask you to pull that out anyways, because they want to see how profitable your business is without you. Those are just extremely important things. Your contracts for your clients are everything. The number one thing that people want to see when they're buying your company is that the contract is long-term. How long is it? Is this month to month? Is this a annual renewable agreement? What am I buying? And of course, depending how long that is, it's going to be longer. Then from there, honestly, it's really your files. I always tell people, make sure every T is crossed and I's are dotted. If they aren't, do a little simple audit on yourself, see what you're missing. Your HR files are extremely important. Do you have everything for your clients? Have they all signed non-disclosures? Do you have everything for your employees, your clients, are their agreements signed? So you really just have to make sure that's all in line, because when it comes down to it, that's what they're looking for when they go to buy your business. They see you, they see your product, they decide that's what they want. Now they're looking behind the curtains and they're making sure everything's in order. And if it's not, that's a deal breaker. And those are all little things. If you just do it right from the first time, it's cake. It's done as you go. My due diligence, I think, was like 2 weeks. It was so quick because they'd ask me for documents. I'm like, here, got them done. Just because I'm just very organized. I'm a weirdo in my own little in my own little area over here. But for the most part, a lot of people really don't have that. Even some of the companies that are VC backed, it really baffles me. I'm like, you go through due diligence quite often. You're going to raise more rounds of funding. What are you doing? And that's one of the first things we do for even our clients that come on that we know are going to be acquired or raise funds, is make sure their file tree, their due diligence is accurate.
Right. No. And if you're somebody listening to this who's like, oh my God, no, we're a mess. You can clean it up. You just have to get started cleaning it up.
Yes.
You can start, get NDAs on your employees. You can put an employee handbook in place. You can send out, pricing and get longer term agreements with your clients. In other words, it's great if you do it from the get-go, right? Because it's in place and you're just doing it. But if you don't, it's just a process to get there. It's going to take you a little bit longer, but you can get there.
You can. And the best thing to do, like I said before, is template it. Have your file tree, have your templates, and then just kind of go through. And I'm a big list maker. I use project management tools like crazy. And I would honestly just like template out my entire project, what I need to do, and check off one by one until finally it's done and I'm good to go. So it seems overwhelming in the beginning, but you just kind of start at one little piece at a time and then kind of move from there. And if you don't want to do it, you can pay someone to do it. So there's always that beauty.
Right. Right. So, Sharrin, thank you. This has been terrific. For folks who are listening who want to get, find you or get a hold of you, where's the best place?
My website, it's glasswalletventures.com. Every possible way to get a hold of me, social media, all that fun stuff, catfish photos of me, all of those are all on the website, and I can definitely be reached there.
All right. And I know you're going to be at accounting, some at the Accounting Web Summit in San Diego. Anywhere else coming up?
I have I am going to be in trouble because I know that I am set up to speak at a few more things. I just cannot remember. There's quite a few coming up. They definitely are all on my website. I know
but they're on your website.
Yes, absolutely. Right. CPA right. Crossings. I know I'm recording some instructional videos for CPE and such as well.
Yeah, no, in fact, I'm doing a 4-hour offer workshop for them.
Oh my goodness. I needed to get my 100-minute in and I'm still stressing a little bit, but it's okay. Once I start talking, I usually don't shut up. So I think I'll be fine, especially I'm talking with slides. So.
Right. No. So, all right. Now, look, with that, thank you very much for doing this. Anyone who's listening, if you want to get a hold of Sharrin, I will put a link to her website in the description of the podcast. But certainly you can reach out to her. I'm sure she will be happy to consult with you and help you make your practice both virtual and way more saleable than it is now. And Sharrin, listen, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, and everyone listen, thank you for joining us again this week. And we will talk to you next week on the podcast. Bye-bye.